What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Metal Blade podcast. I am Riley McShane, and I'm here with...
Hey, this is Vince from Metal Blade. Nice to have you back again, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, dude.
Well, you know, we're co-hosting, so what choice did you have? You agreed to this.
I feel like you don't have to thank me for coming back. This is like kind of my job now.
Yeah, well, one part of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's dive right into it here. What new stuff have you heard? What new music have you heard that you're excited about, man?
Not a whole lot of particularly new stuff, but I have been listening to a lot of stuff that came out not too long ago. I've been listening to a lot of that new Signs of the Swarm record.
Oh, nice. I've heard a ton about that, but I haven't put in the time yet. I don't know why.
They are very good. I toured with them last year with Continuum on the Bloodletting tour. Why am I drawing such a blank on the name of that record right now? It is called, give me one second.
Hey, Ryan, can you look that up? Pull that up, Ryan.
Yeah, pull that up, Ryan.
Vital Deprivation.
Yeah, Vital Deprivation. That's what it is. Super sick record. Super sick record. I've been spinning that on repeat a lot. Their vocalist David is so gross. He's so gross. And
this is the only genre where that's a compliment.
I know. It's so gross. Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah. If you went up to a pop star and said, "Oh, that set was disgusting,"
they'd be like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
Oh man, I'm actually I've finally got a few listens in, but God Dethroned, man.
Yeah.
I've liked working with that band for a long time. And their new album is back to God Dethroned, talking about God. They had a 3-record span there where it was all World War I, which I think is super interesting because it's not as well documented as it used to be.
Right.
I think Battlefield 1 coming out really kind of got people into World War I a little bit more. Not that being into war is kind of something you should be, but those parts of history are really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, the catalysts. I watched like a whole documentary on like how the assassination of Franz Ferdinand went down.
Right, yeah.
And like...
It's crazy.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. It's like the people that were trying to assassinate him like totally just blew it. They just they completely botched it. And then like, you know, as he's being escorted out, like some dude who was just like, oh man, well maybe next time, like happens to see him walking down. Like they like threw a grenade that was like a dud.
Right.
Like, it's so much crazy shit about that whole event. Like
it's a wild time in history, but God the Throne covered that extensively in a really cool way. But their new record is Illuminati, and Spirit of Beelzebub, Illuminati are a couple of the songs. Book of Lies, so it's back to God the Thrones doing their thing. And Henry Sadler is a great guitar player, cool vocalist, exceptionally tall Dutch man. And there was a tour years ago. This wasn't long after I'd started at Metal Blade. God the Throne was in LA. And I remember hanging out with them outside the venue. I think they played the Key Club when it was still around, if not the Whiskey, one of those. And I was outside with the band, and there was a drunk fan demanding their autographs, but in a nice way. And had the booklet for the new CD. I forget which one it was at the time. And he wanted my autograph on the CD. And I said, no, I'm not in the band. And the drunk dude insisted that I was the drummer of God Dethroned and would not relent. And of course, Henry was totally into it. He was like, yeah, definitely sign it. So somewhere out there's a fan that has all of God Dethrone's signatures and me. But yeah, the new God the Throne is something I'm pretty pumped on, and I'm glad they're back doing their thing, man. They're a great band.
That's awesome. I experienced almost the total inverse at a show recently. I was at a cattle decapitation show in San Diego, where we both live, and I see this dude wearing an Allegiant hat. He's wearing one of the hats that we hadn't printed in a while, and see the logo like right on the front, but he's wearing it backwards, so it's like I could see it like while I'm looking at his back, and I was in line behind him at some point in the night, and I was like, I'm gonna be that guy real quick. And so I like tap him on the shoulder, and I was like, hey dude, sick hat. And he like turned around and looked me like square in the face and was like, oh hell yeah, dude, thanks. And then just like turned back around.
Had no idea. Yeah, well, who would expect?
Yeah.
And dude, that's why I think it's so important. I'm like hitting my hands together. You can pick that up on the mic.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I've had this conversation with bands ad nauseum for the last decade. Videos that are all story are cool, lyric videos are cool, whatever, but people need to know what the hell you look like. It's so important that fans connect with the bands on a level where they know what they look like and they can relate to them. We've talked about this a lot, me and Ryan, just with the Black Dahlia Murder DVDs and how much that did to really showcase who's in the band.
Yep.
We all have, we're paralyzed by choice, right? I went to school for marketing, business, that type of thing. So there was a lot of case studies we talked about. And one of them was you go into the supermarket and you see all these choices for salad dressing and you end up walking out with no salad dressing.
Right.
Because you just can't make a choice. And that's kind of what music in all genres is right now, because the barrier to entry to record is lower than it's ever been. You can record in your bedroom if you want to and sound pretty decent.
Yep.
So the more a band takes the time to connect with fans on a personal level, which sometimes is as simple as appearing in your own music video, the more likely a fan is to stick around, listen to it, and then also recognize you and be in public and be excited to see your band.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons why bands that are around for a long time that have relatively stable lineups are on average more successful, because people connect with the members over time. That's not to say there aren't changes in lineups. Touring is hard. Being in a band is near impossible.
Yeah.
But still, those things are really important. And someone like Henry from God the Throne is so immediately recognizable.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that he didn't recognize you, but you've been in your videos.
Yeah, many times.
But it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for people to really kind of... But you haven't been in the band the whole time either.
That's very true. That's very true. I'm less time than more. Almost a full half and half. I've been there for 2 records, and I think there were 3 records before that.
Yeah, the biggest Allegaeon video is still, I think, 1.618, which has Ezra as a vocalist.
I am not in.
Yeah, so we have to make the next Allegaeon 1.618 video somehow.
We do. Well, we've got plans. All
right, cool. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things we wanted to talk about on this episode of the podcast, and it's something we talk about a decent amount here, is bands often compare their band to other bands. And we were, both you and I, as people that create things, you said this cool phrase, and what is it?
Compare and despair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself doing it a lot more often than I should. But it's hard not to, you know what I mean? Like you always want to be aware. And this phenomenon isn't exclusive to music.
No,
you know what I mean?
Definitely
like,
not.
It's the kind of thing where it's like any area of business, any work that you might do or any project that you do that you're invested in, it's easy to look up the ladder, you know what I mean? And whether it's for inspiration or to get ideas of what works and what doesn't, it's good to pay attention to what you are doing in your field and what other people are doing in your field. But there's a real easy fence to hop when you're doing that into the despair area, where it's like, you're looking at what other people that are successful are doing, and then you start looking at what you're doing, what you've been doing, and it's really easy to kind of like be like, oh man, how come I'm not doing that?
Right.
Start getting super Eeyore about it, just like, well, maybe one day. Like it's and it's really easy to kind of like slide into that bad habit. Yeah, compare and despair, definitely something to avoid doing.
I can't count the number of times I've heard a band say, well, this band got this tour and we got X.
Right.
It's pointless. You're not that band.
No.
And even if the bands are comparably sized, it doesn't really matter. The amount of variables.
And just, there's so many bands. You know what I mean? There's so many bands. Like you just said, you can be a bedroom artist. Anyone who has,
right,
$500 for a 7-string and another $200 for a Focusrite, Scarlett 2i2 is able to produce relatively good sounding music.
Yeah.
You send your raw tracks to a, mixing, mastering engineer, and you're pretty much on par with everything else that's coming out. And so there's such a saturation that it's like, there's only so many opportunities to go around. And while one band or artist might be getting an opportunity that, you wish you had gotten, that's not to say that another opportunity isn't going to come around, that very well may put the shoe on that other foot.
Yeah, and look, I'm relatively self-taught as far as graphic design and videos are concerned. And I keep a YouTube playlist on a personal level of videos I've done merely to keep track of the work I've done in case I need to reference something or whatever. And I've done over 70 videos for Metal Blade over the last 10 years, which seems higher than it should be. It's kind of a boggling thing. And I still feel like I kind of suck at it because there are so many people that do such incredible work. And sometimes it's hard for me to pull myself out of that hole of, well, what's the point?
Well, you know what's really good though, or at least a trick that I have found to minimize the despair when doing a compare is comparing yourself to where you were even like a year ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's a good one.
You look into your backlog of work, like I said, not just of music or art or videos, but like really anything that you've done. Like if you are working on something now and you're feeling shitty about it, and you're looking at how well someone else is doing that maybe hasn't been doing it for as long as you, but has capitalized on more opportunities or whatever, just go and look at what you were doing 5-10 years ago, or even, like I said, just 1 year prior, and you will feel a lot better because
most likely, of course.
Everyone grows, you know what I mean? The more you do something, it's inevitable.
Yeah, I certainly feel that way about photography, and there's a few things I did years ago, even just a couple of years ago, that I look at and I think, wow, was I drunk when I color graded this? Because it looks like crap. In my head, I'm battling with myself enough, and I think we all are to a degree. I think it's pretty obvious that mental illness in some capacity is much more common than anyone really acknowledges.
Oh, yeah.
And we, especially people that are creative or do creative things, are battling themselves more often than not, probably. So when they put work out there and it can be immediately just crapped on by someone with no experience in that field, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing that people have feedback, but there's just this amount of just nonsense that you have to really just tune out. Otherwise, it'll just drag you down.
There's another hot saying that I have been applying to my life as a musician and as an artist who's putting myself out there in the public forum. Never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I sat there and read every shitty YouTube comment and read every, disparaging thing said on Facebook and actually took it to heart, I would have stopped doing what I do long time ago. You know what I mean? Because people, it's like you said, there's just this immediate capacity to scrutinize. But I you have to put it in perspective. You know what I mean? Would I, if this person, who's spending time out of their day to leave a shitty YouTube comment underneath a video from a band, would I take advice from that person if they were to try to give me some actual practical life advice? Chances are pretty high that I would not. So,
yeah, actually I think that's really quickly addressed in a really subtle way in One Punch Man. I know you've seen that.
I love One Punch Man. I'm also a giant piece of weeb trash, so
yeah. Remember that episode where him and what's his sidekick,
no, that's his name,
Saitama. That's his name. Anyway, the cyborg
guy. Yeah.
They got fan mail, and One Punch Man got a really bad piece of fan mail, and his sidekick got really scared that Saitama was going to be super mad, and his only response was, well, this person has a lot of time on their hands, and then just tossed it.
Yeah, 100%.
Holy crap, that's that's a really mature response. And the one thing I was thinking about actually yesterday, and I'm glad I just remembered this. I'm 35. I'm I'm not old and I'm not young anymore. I'm kind of in between now. You got to remember that when you're online, there's a chance you're arguing with someone that was born on or around 9/11.
Yeah. Very true.
Someone, you remember what you were like when you were 20.
Oh, God.
Just you're arguing with that person.
Do you ever get haunted by your Facebook memories? When Facebook is
occasionally,
Facebook's oh, you have memories from 9 years ago. And then you look at, the things that you would post 9 years ago and are just oh my God.
I've deleted a lot. And I recently downloaded and deleted most of the photos I had on Facebook. And I'm slowly spinning down my Facebook presence.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the main reason I'm still on there is because of the amount we have to do for work.
Yeah.
And how ingrained Facebook is to just the promotional side of things in music.
Right.
You kind of need to be there in some capacity.
Yeah,
so I
100%.
may as well just leave it for now. But yeah, it's these things I think about a lot because the longer we're in business and sign artists, we're just going to have to keep having these conversations with bands to make sure that they don't have these pitfalls or how to address it when they come up, because it's creating something and spending the amount of time that you have to spend to write, record, and release an album for someone online to just immediately dismiss it.
Yeah.
Look, we're not asking people to like every release we put out or every release a band puts out. People are certainly entitled to not like it, but that doesn't mean they should have the ability to completely dismiss hundreds of hours work, hundreds of hours of work with like, that sucks.
Yeah.
I don't like Dave Matthews Band. They don't suck. They're an incredible band. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
If you'd have talked to me when I was 17, I would have told you Dave Matthews Band objectively is terrible.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you grow and kind of realize, I should probably try to be an adult about things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the more you kind of tune your brain, and look, it's one step forward, two steps back sometimes. I definitely do have to pull myself out of pits of despair, and I probably will for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because creating things is hard. Being inspired when you don't have inspiration is hard. Making a video when I have no ideas is hard. It's easy to make a video when it's a hobby and you just want to do it for fun.
Right.
But if you're on a deadline with an album release coming up and I have little to no direction from an artist, I start to get a little stressed.
Yeah.
And that pit of despair is always just right around the corner.
It is always just hanging out. A call of the void.
Yeah.
No, and it's a little bit of a trope, but like you're your own worst critic, own worst enemy kind of thing. Like what you deem not up to your standards, a whole lot of other people may look at and be like, "This is so sick." So it's like, you
might be higher
perspective.
You might be higher up on the ladder than someone else.
Yeah.
And it's a ladder that goes on forever.
Yeah.
The more you learn about anything, the more you realize you don't know generally, right?
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let's move on from that. Really cheerful topic.
Yes.
But I'm glad we can tease it out because I think we all really relate to that.
Yeah,
honestly.
and I think that, a lot of people, hopefully when y'all hear this, can look at it as a little bit of learning, a little bit of honesty.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Absolutely. So last episode, I didn't really have a lot that I was looking forward to in 2020. I don't know exactly when this is going to air, but one of the things that kind of popped up that I didn't know was coming is the new Brian Posehn album.
Yeah.
I'm a giant fan of comedy. I try to go to the Comedy Store in Hollywood as often as I can. I'd like to go once a month. I probably go once every 3 to 4 months. It's an amazing place. And really, the Improv, all the places in Hollywood are cool. In LA,
like A-listers go there to try out their new material. It's a good chance to see some of your favorite people.
But Posehn, his metal records are really cool, really funny because he's a legitimate, real metalhead. And Grandpa Metal is the title. And he had a bit years ago that actually kind of ties into that despair thing we were talking about. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but he talked about being a nerd in high school and being laughed at by jocks. And as an adult in LA, he was driving down the road and he had to park somewhere and he couldn't find a parking spot. And someone had thrown a mattress on the street right where a parking spot would be. So he parked his car over this mattress. He does whatever he needs to do and he leaves and he's driving down the road. And there are these jocks on the corner that point at him and start laughing. And it was just nerd rage. And he's like, "Fuck you," and flipping him off. He realizes the mattress is underneath his car and he's dragging it. So he ends the bit by saying, maybe I've been dragging a mattress my entire life. Yeah. It's just, I haven't that's one of the most relatable comedy bits I've ever heard. Cause it's presumptuous to think people think that way about you. And I feel like a lot of creative people and a lot of people that are in the metal that are nerdy have a lot of self-loathing projection.
No, yeah. And I mean, being a nerd and being a metalhead is like fucking iron and wine. That shit is just, like you are destined to have some kind of weird nerdy thing that you do while listening to metal.
All right.
Whether it's video games or D&D. Oh God, I love D&D so much.
Yeah.
Did you ever play D&D?
No, I never did, but I'm going to play that Black Dahlia Murder RPG we're putting out through Night Shift, which is cool. We're not really even putting that out. That's just Kareem and Night Shift and their merch wizardry, man. It's fucking awesome.
I was talking to someone about how everybody's always afraid to die in Dungeons and Dragons because it's time investment. You know what I mean? It takes
right?
It's permadeath, and like just there's something really defeating about like tangibly ripping up your character sheet, being like, well, this
starting
is trash
over
now, and then making a new character sheet. But I've never adopted that mentality. I am like, every party needs like a chaotic evil minotaur to just like run around and like. And people get sick of your shit. Like, if you're really role-playing a chaotic evil minotaur, you're just like, oh, there's a person there. I'm going to try to, I'm going to roll to cut his head off. And your DM is just like, I put that person there to be like a pivotal quest character. You should really not kill him. and then you kill him, and the D&D then has to or the DM has to
figure something else out.
to be like, well, I guess a spirit comes out of the body of the person you just needlessly decapitated, you fucking minotaur. But yeah, usually you get killed by your party pretty quickly. But sometimes you just need to be traveled in a cage and taken out when a horde of goblins attacks you. Anyway, I'm getting very sidetracked. This is nowhere on our outline.
No. Well, someday I'll play D&D, but one of the other upcoming 2020 releases you want to talk about was Ihsan.
Oh, dude, yeah. Ihsan, I love his work. Big fan. Big fan. We talked about Leprous a little bit in the last one, and that's actually where they got their start. Was they are Ihsan's studio band and his live recording, or his live performing touring band as well. I don't know if they still are now that they're like a thing.
Sure.
But that's how they got their start in the industry. I like to refer to them as the Toto of modern metal, because Toto in the 80s was just like a bunch of studio guys who worked with all these legends, and then just kind of got together and we're like, hey, we could probably write songs, and then they wrote Africa and Rosanna and Hold the Line, just these anthemic classics, which is kind of what Leprous has done. But we talked about them already. Ihsan, on the other hand, if you are not familiar with him, Ihsan is the spearhead, leader, commander-in-chief of Emperor, the 90s like first wave black metal. Is Emperor a first wave black metal band?
I don't know.
I'd say they're probably like second or third wave.
Unclear.
Yeah, unclear. Well, they're like a symphonic black metal band. Ihsan is amazing. He has been, he works with all kinds of incredible artists. He did the song Jular with Devin Townsend.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, the person screaming in that song in the background, the I survive, nothing ever bothers me.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's Ihsan.
Yeah, that sounds like it now that you say that. Holy shit. And you know who directed that amazing video?
Who?
David Brodsky.
Oh.
Who is responsible for half of our top 10 most viewed videos of all time on the Metal Blade YouTube channel.
Is amazing.
Yeah. Again, he's one of those guys I compare my work to. Because he's got such a good eye, and didn't even mean to do that, but his company's called My Good Eye.
Yeah.
But it's, you want to take things from people and use them in your own creations rather than compare, right?
Exactly.
Not despair and compare, borrow and compare.
Yes.
No, that's a good idea.
Compare and inspire. That doesn't ring quite the same. But,
I can sprinkle that on my work like some sort of cayenne. Get the cayenne shaker out and make it more spicy. But yeah, Ihsan, I'm definitely going to dive into that because I've really only scratched the surface on Ihsan and even Emperor.
I mean, Emperor's, In the Night Side Eclipse is like the album. You know what I mean? It's like every band has the album,
right?
You know what I mean? In their discography. In the Night Side Eclipse is like the definitive Emperor album. It's like just symphonic black metal, old school symphonic black metal, like at its finest.
Yeah, and I'm sure it sounds bad that as a dude at Metal Blade doing the Metal Blade podcast saying I've really only scratched the surface with something as iconic as Emperor sounds bad, but there's so much music.
There's so much.
It's really impossible to have said I've listened to all things that I need to listen to. And there's always something else.
And honestly, it's like, how old were you in 94, 95 when...
Yeah, I was like 8 years old.
Yeah, so it's understandable that it's like, and black metal has kind of just started coming back over the past few years. There have obviously always been black metal bands out there, but it's only really been getting a lot of not mainstream attention, but mainstream metal attention.
Sure.
Over the past few years, bands like Death Heaven with their like post-rock brand of black metal, and it's kind of opened the gates for bands like, how do you even say it? Migla? MGLA?
I don't know.
Either way, they've been getting a lot of attention lately, and I think that because of that, a lot of people have been like going back to the old first wave black metal bands, Bathory and all those guys, Mayhem and Emperor. But Ihsan's stuff he makes now is definitely not black metal.
Right.
It is like progressive rock metal, very theatric, very big. It reminds me of like a lot of older Behemoth stuff.
Okay.
Except a little bit more, Behemoth is very like straightforward meat and potatoes, like it's evil and symphonic and big and huge and epic.
Maybe a Behemoth mixed with Townsend or something.
Yeah, a little bit more like that for sure.
That's
kind of what down a little bit more than Behemoth does.
That's kind of what gets me excited about metal in general these days. And a lot of other genres, it's fair to say, Because look, we talk about underground metal, but there's parallel things happening in underground genres across the spectrum of music. But I feel like with the immediate access to music, bands are getting more creative,
Right.
and really not adhering to strict rule sets like they might have used to. And I think kids growing up now, because they can listen to anything, are less stuck in genre confines. And I've always felt that way about European festivals with such diverse lineups.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, I think that can start to happen here. I think people are getting way more creative here with touring lineups.
Yep.
Dragon Force going out with Dance with the Dead, I feel is like one of the coolest things ever. And I think we're only going to see more of that because people, I always felt strongly that mainstream radio and people of that ilk, and not just radio, it's unfair to just single them out, don't give listeners enough credit for the variety of music they listen to.
Right. And honestly, it's like that variety, it plays a lot into the structuring of, like you said, those lineups and those big festivals. Cause it's like, again, going back to the mean internet people, you see a lot of the people making these negative comments, and it makes it seem like the whole genre gets pigeonholed into the less like elitist mindset. But more often than not, it's like really not the case. And you have these, huge festivals like you're talking about, those Euro ones. But even like this year's Psycho Las Vegas lineup,
Crazy.
super diverse,
Crazy good lineup. Yeah,
really, really good lineup. And it's gonna sell out.
Yeah,
like super quick.
And I guarantee you, there's a bunch of people trashing it online right now.
Oh, there's tons.
The saying we had when I was at radio was, "Look, you can listen to the callers, but the callers are maybe 5 to 10% at most.
Yeah,
very most of the listeners.
100%.
And I think internet commenting is probably similar. How many people saw that post versus how many commented? It's a pretty small percentage.
Yeah,
most people saw it and thought sick and moved on.
Yeah.
So as much as internet comments are important feedback, is that narrative statistically significant? Probably not always.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't think so. Oftentimes, it's like you said, 1 to 5%, especially on social media. Like 1 to 5% of the people that are seeing what you're posting are actually engaging.
Sure.
And whether that's positive or negative, like that number pretty much stays the same.
Hey, look, some comments nail it, but some are batshit crazy copy pasta.
A little bit off the mark.
You never know.
God, I do love copy pastas though.
Yeah, Reddit's leaking all over the internet.
Yeah, I think that shit posting is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the only things that keeps me sane. Honestly, I've been going online recently. Joining like real like tough guy, like super macho Facebook groups, and telling them that I want to take showers with them, and it's like literally one of the only things that keeps me sane. Is I'll join like a Harley riders group or something, and this guy will like post a picture of him in like his leathers, like all sunglasses and beard with his big old and I'll be like, oh hell yeah, brother, nice ride. Maybe later, maybe we could hit the highway together and then maybe take a shower later. Like take a shower together. It's oh god, it's so.
Do you know
fun.
What that sounds like? That sounds like a reality show on an episode of Rick and Morty on interdimensional cable.
Yeah. Maybe we could take a shower together. The television show.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of taking showers together, like we talked about last time, you were at NAMM.
Yeah.
And you talked to yet another artist.
I did. I spoke to Federico Paulovich, the drummer for Destrage. Super cool guy.
Yeah, another super cool alien drummer that does things that I feel as a drummer are just impossible, and I don't believe he's actually doing it. He's a robot person.
It is pretty remarkable listening to some of his drum parts. Yeah. It's just like, what? How do you even think that way? Like, it's like, not only do you have complete control over each one of your limbs, but they all have brains. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, his limb independence is way up there. So let's check out. Do you have anything else to add to the conversation with him?
Yeah, I think I should mention that before we actually started recording, we had a nice little conversation about which ties in pretty well to this episode's overall theme about like the struggles of being a creative in today's climate. And he starts off the podcast basically just being like, yes, like brothers in the struggle or something like that. for a little bit of context on where that comes from, that's basically it. We were both at NAMM day 3, I believe, 3 out of 4. Just tired, sitting at a Starbucks, being like, "Hey man, thanks for like sitting down with me," and he's just like, "Yeah man, struggle's real," and I was like, "Hey man, I'm right there with you," and he was just like, "Yes, brothers in the struggle." So that's
awesome.
That's that. So without further ado, here is my piece with Fedi from Destrage. Hello, friends. Riley again. I am here sitting in Starbucks outside of NAMM, the Starbucks Hilton, with our good friend Fede from Destrage.
Hey, y'all. How you doing, guys? It's great to be here in good company.
Yes.
In struggle.
Yes.
Trust.
Struggling together forever.
Struggle united.
So speaking of struggling, so you said that this is your 9th NAMM?
It is.
How are you still alive?
I don't know, man. Like, I had to take a couple of breaks. I didn't come 9 years straight.
Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, even still, just to have that many NAMMs under your belt.
Well, but, that's... The experience actually helps you, deal with it.
Yeah. You get to learn. You get to learn. It's, we were briefly talking before we started recording about how it's like the NAMM look. Where you're talking to someone and you're not really engaged with them because you're actually just looking for someone else over their shoulder. There's you learn how to avoid doing things like that.
Exactly,
poor etiquette.
That's exactly the NAMM look, and that's something that I really hate, and I'm trying my best not to do that. It's been like that for a few last year now.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy spending time with the people that I'm with. So if not, it's just pointless. Why should I stay with you if I'm looking for someone else?
Exactly.
So just look for the people that I want to hang with and talk to them, and then have fun and hopefully having a useful conversation.
Yes, 100%. Like this very useful conversation that we're having right now. A lot of people use NAMM as like a networking convention. A lot of people use it as just kind of like a fucking, just a vacation from everyday life to go hang out and see new products. What do you usually? I mean, what is your purpose here?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, well, I mean, since I've been here so many times, I now have very many friends that live here. So I really take a vacation. I come to LA usually a week to 10 days before NAMM.
Oh, okay.
So I can stay at a friend's house and hang with them. I have a bunch of Italian friends living in Los Angeles, and I have a bunch of American friends as well. So that's really my yearly vacation, especially because usually weather is pretty nice in California, and it's not in Milan where I live, which is, freezing balls right now.
Yeah,
so,
dude, I love Milan so much. The first time I ever toured over in Europe, that was like the only place where we had a day off was in Milan. And, I saw the Duomo and fucking Fashion Valley and all that. It's crazy. I'm a big fashion nerd. My wife actually asked me to bring her a copy of Vogue Italia. Because she is also really into fashion, and I totally forgot, and she has like never forgiven me for it. So next time I'm in Milan,
you're talking to the less fashion addicted
look
person.
You're very fashionable.
Well, but that's the average Italian thing, I guess.
I see. The average Italian is much more fashionable than a fashionable American.
All right. So, but anyway, so I'm just having my it's a sort of like business vacation, I would say. I just hang with friends before NAMM, and then I got to meet all the new people here at NAMM. So basically, I could see how at least my approach to NAMM has changed through the years.
Right.
So of course, the very first years I was very into looking up to gear and geeking out a lot.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't care at all right now. So I'm just here for connections and meeting new people and creating useful connections basically.
Yeah.
So that's how it has become for myself lately.
That's it's funny that you say that about the gear, because that's exactly how I am with people. So Okay, let me explain.
Yeah,
Let me explain myself.
Please.
Okay, so what I mean is like a lot of I've been to a few NAMMs now, and a lot of the times when I'm there, it's like I'll see people whose like music I respect or I admire or whatever, but it's like I just don't give a shit. I'm just like it's like it's cool, like they're there, but like of course they are. It's fucking NAMM, and then like. But I'm not gonna go up to them and be like, oh, hey, I'm a big fan, or like this and that. And the other side of that is that it's like, I am sure, I'm 100% sure that there are tons of people whose music I listen to, and I just have no idea what they look like, that I've just like walked right past.
Oh
like,
yeah, sure.
So many times today.
Sure.
And it's hard for me to like bring myself to like research and care enough to be like, oh, I want to see this guy, and I know this guy's going to be there, and this person that I follow, and all this kind of stuff. So
it's definitely something more nerd than artistics. I would say. Like I couldn't figure, I don't know, like Sting walking around NAMM.
Yeah.
You know, he just doesn't give a shit. You know, like his life is on an all other level. You know, he doesn't care about NAMM.
No.
You know?
No.
And he's still like one of the most important musicians on the planet.
Oh,
so
100%.
His contribution to music, I think it's been much greater than probably 90% of what's going on into NAMM. You know?
100%. But it's like, those people who have been around for so long. I mean, how long has NAMM been a thing?
I don't even know.
It's like 20, 30 years?
No, probably.
Like that?
I think it's like 50 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe he went to NAMM back in his day. Who
knows? Yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen Stevie Wonder many times walking around NAMM.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
he
rad.
loves to come down.
That's
and
so
there's
cool.
usually there's like a line of people following him through all the convention center. It's really funny to see, to be honest.
Just trying to be sneaky, being like, "Oh, he can't see us. Just stay far enough behind."
Oh my god! Yes, we are being very politically correct right now.
Of course. Well,
which I fucking hate, by the way.
I call a spade, even when it's blind.
There you go.
Stevie Wonder is amazing, though. I love that guy. It's really cool. I've actually seen a few people like from that like older generation, those like 60s, 70s, 80s like trendsetters, just like walking around here. I saw Bootsy Collins, just like chilling, wearing a big giant red sequin top hat. It was amazing. A friend who I was with was like, "Wow, he's a lot taller than I thought," and I was like, "Maybe he's wearing bootsies."
It's very difficult not to see him when he's around. That's for sure.
He is a very loud person, but yeah, it's super cool, and it's just that kind of place. You know what I mean? I understand why a lot of people kind of like idealize NAMM. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you don't know what's going on, then it's easy to misunderstand it. I would say. But at the same time, I think it's cool and it's good to be here, since everyone's here and you never know what could happen. Yeah. So anytime I couldn't make it to NAMM, I was like, well, I wish I would be there.
Yeah.
Even though I knew what was going on because I've been here so many times.
Yep.
But I also, for the same reason, know that anything could happen at any time.
Yep. It's
so
crazy.
It's, good to be here.
I was here on Thursday. And I didn't come yesterday, but now I'm here again today. And all day yesterday, I kept seeing my friends posting things on social media, being like, "Oh, I met this guy," and "Oh, look at this thing I'm watching." And I'm like, "Man, fuck, I should have gone."
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I feel it. Well, so let's talk about.
Okay, I could probably try to tie up with what you're going to say.
Yes.
And because I'm this year especially, I'm the band's delegation.
Yes.
There's no other guy from the band here.
Yes.
So I'm usually the one who actually does this, I'm doing like public relation for the band, especially in these kind of situations.
Yes. You're the interview guy. You're the personality.
Yeah, of course. Look at, because I'm the average fashion.
It is because
Italian guy.
you're the most fashionable one. I see. I get it now. That's why
I'm telling you,
you're the face.
I'm telling you, I just bought these sneakers and a bunch of people. Of course, people cannot see because it's an audio podcast. But I just got these very colored sneakers.
They are
and
very
everybody's
colorful.
complimenting on them.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
I see. And it's just not even trying. Just, oh, those look cool. I'm going to get them. Meanwhile, everybody else is trying to coordinate their outfits, and you're just like, hell yeah, loud-ass sneakers. People are just like, oh, it's so sick.
Exactly.
So, yes, that was kind of where I was going was, let's talk about Destrage for a minute. How your scene is over there in Italy and how you're seeing any differences, albeit them small at NAMM and how the scene kind of translates over here.
Yeah.
I feel like this feels like an interview question, which is kind of something I wanted to avoid.
Yeah.
But,
we can actually, I could say, we can just share our experiences within the relatives bands. The struggle is real.
The struggle
as we were telling.
The struggle is real.
And so, we released the latest record in May 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But as you might know, like a lot of huge bands came out with new records last year.
Oh yeah.
Like Tool,
yeah,
and Slipknot and Devin Townsend. A bunch of huge artists came out. So it was particularly difficult to get attention for the new record.
Yeah.
Which I personally believe is the best one we've ever done.
Yeah.
But
it's really good.
Oh, thank
you. It's
you.
a really, really good record.
But it's been quite hard to get it cut through the huge amount of promotion and information that everyone else has done. So
right.
And so we really didn't make a lot of touring for promoting the album. So
right.
We had a few changes within the band because Gabriel, our bass player, left the band.
Okay.
So we're now in a different phase. We're starting working with new people concerning the booking agencies for both Europe and North America, and we're actually considering who could be the right profile person to join the band if that's the case. Because we really don't need a new bass player.
Yeah.
We can just hire one for tours.
Yeah.
If it has to be a fifth element who has to share, decisions and everything that's within the band. I mean, we've been with the same lineup for 12 years now.
Yeah.
So, entering a band with such a long history, it's kind of difficult.
It's weird. You have to work on that chemistry for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So we are really looking to find someone who's mainly something else and that could play bass.
Right.
So I would say like a producer or a video maker or electronic musician or
right.
a multi-instrumentalist or whatever that is.
Right. Someone
that
who
could
can
also play bass.
Bring something other than just bass to the band.
Yeah.
Like something new and unique into the fold.
Yeah, because that would, light up the fire again. Like
right.
the creative, sport.
Right.
To just,
well, you have this whole new, like you said, this whole new element to play with.
Exactly. So that's what we're looking for now. And in the meanwhile, we'll just begin writing new music,
Yep.
waiting for some tours to pop out eventually.
Well, I hope to see you guys over here. That would be amazing.
Yeah, we really hope to come back to the US.
I guess I'm seeing you here now, but that doesn't count. That's
no,
not,
exactly. No, because I'm not playing. I'm just hanging and talking to a lot of people.
Are you playing at all this weekend? Are you doing anything?
No, not really. It's got very difficult to play at the booth.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to play for UFEP, my cymbal company back then. It was very much possible, but now it's, with the sound police and shit like that, you cannot really
The sound police are crazy this year. It's like crazy this year.
Yeah.
Like it's never, in all the years that I've been, it's like I've seen, sound police here and there when it's like really loud kind of thing. But this year it's like they want to keep it like below 85 decibels or something like that. Like
in fact, if you see like cymbals booth and they have a drum set,
right,
or even drum set booth, they don't have the throne. So people, they can just try the drums standing up.
What the fuck?
So they cannot really play the drums,
Wow, that's crazy. That's super crazy.
So, and talking about the scene, as you were asking, I mean, it's quite obvious, but difficult at the same time for me to describe the differences between the American scene and the Italian one, because like the US especially, a lot of stuff's going on.
Right.
Like the biggest artists are from here, and not only in metal.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a general thing. It's such a larger country compared to Italy, and it has such a different music history. But I might say, even though quite a few clubs are actually shut down in the last few years, the scene, especially in Milan, is pretty good. I mean, I could tell there are quite a few very young bands that are writing very good and interesting music.
Nice.
So we'll see. Hopefully they can reach, more and more people.
Right.
But I would also say, I reckon we have quite a few bands that come from Italy that are internationally recognized nowadays. I'm thinking of, apart from Lacuna Coil, which has been, around since forever at this point, but also like Flesh God Apocalypse, they're
Flesh
doing
God
great.
was the one that I was thinking of.
Yeah,
for sure.
but even like, especially in the extreme scene, like Hideous Divinity.
Oh, yeah. Dude, Hideous Divinity is sick. I actually did not know that they were an Italian band.
They are.
Now I know.
Drummer is a very good friend of mine.
Nice.
Yeah, Giulio Galati. I would say, ciao Giulio, if he ever listens to this podcast. There are plenty of bands that I can think of, actually. But I would say it's more into the extreme metal scene.
Right.
He's from
that's
Remote.
awesome.
Many, actually. I couldn't recall the names right now, but I know there are plenty of very good bands in Italy. The only problem is that there are not so many clubs and or festival to play within that context, I would say.
Well, the way I've kind of noticed that the scenes differ, just from my personal experiences touring in both places, is that it's like there's like the American scene, right? And then the way that we view it is it's like the European scene. And it's mostly like it's kind of split between like the Western European scene and the Eastern European scene. And Italy falls into that like Western European kind of thing where it's like, you go over there and you play and you're playing, the UK and France and Germany and Italy. And then if you venture off into Eastern Europe and play, like the Slavias, or like Poland and stuff like that, that's like a whole different vibe.
It is. We've never been to Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it's very different. Very different.
I am sure.
You know what it is that it's like I've noticed that the dollar doesn't go as far over there, and so it's like people have to like really like save money to go to concerts. Whereas in more like metropolitan or more highly populated areas like Italy and Germany and stuff, it's like, or like just like in the United States, you just buy a concert ticket. It's like $30.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
But also like the reaction, like the average audience reaction is so different from country to country.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Like
Germans scare me.
There you go. I wouldn't, I wasn't going to say that, but you did.
I did.
I mean, a very typical German thing at concert, especially if, let's say, you played a show 2 years ago, and then you come back, and then they would just go and say, "Yes, your show was good, but." It wasn't as good as 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, no, I know. Okay, so Germans do this thing where they're like, "Wow, you guys were amazing. It was awful." I'm like, "What? Like, make up your mind, man." Like, it's like they can't just be like, "Oh, cool, like sick set, man," without also being like, "You're a bad musician, and I don't think you should be doing this, but I really enjoyed the show." Like, it's so weird. Like, and so I never know what to expect whenever I play a show in Germany. It's like I see someone walking up to me, and I'm like, "Oh my god." But no, it's usually good. And German shows crowd reaction is usually really good.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a weird combination of factors, and then it really depends on the music that you play. So I am sure you guys experienced different reactions compared to the ones that we had, like apart from Italy, which is our homeland, but I would say our best crowds are in France, UK, Finland.
Really?
Yeah, Finnish crowd. It's been so great to us.
That's awesome.
And Czech Republic.
Yeah, Czech Republic is really good.
But
really good.
That's weird. Like you say, that Finland, that was great, and Sweden and Norway were kind of okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know why. I have no clue. It's just the way it is, you know. It's probably, I would say, you know what? The richer the country, the more difficult the audience is.
That kind of. I mean, especially in metal. You know, well, you know what I feel like it is it's like metal is the music for people who are trying to translate their negative feelings into like an outlet, right?
Yep.
And so it's like if you live somewhere where there's tons of poverty or where there's tons of, you know, social strife, or if there's something like that, like metal can be something that you can kind of like attach to like, you know, get those feelings out and use it as an outlet. And in like really rich, well-off countries, I feel like there's not as much of that, and so there's not as many fans being like, you know.
I agree on that. I don't even know if there's no fans. It's just they probably live the experience on a different level.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they just don't. It's not a way to channel the energy out. You
Right.
know, it's just a different experience. I believe.
And I've noticed that some places too, it's like it's more of like a spectacle, right?
Yep.
Like in a lot of places, it's like people will just like watch you. Especially, I mean, you know, and we both play pretty musically proficient music. Lots of different time signatures, like lots of different changes, like, you know, music that you have to really like pay attention to enjoy it, I think, to like its fullest extent. And I think more in your part of the world, people will like just kind of like watch it and listen to it and like digest it and like really like understand it and appreciate it. And in the States, it's more like about that outlet and about that aggression and about that.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
but then I think it also depends on the attitude and purpose of the band itself. You know, like even though we know we write difficult shit, that's not the purpose.
right.
We write for the purpose of having fun playing the music, and you know, and for the people to have fun at the concert. We don't want people to take notes of the mistakes that we do at concert.
Right.
We don't care about that, and
Right.
we don't play music to demonstrate that we can play stuff. You know,
Yep.
that's totally not the point for us.
And it shouldn't be. I feel for any musician. You know. What I
Yeah,
mean?
but
like,
you know, it's
but
like that for someone.
It is definitely like that for quite a lot of them, especially in more like technical metal stuff.
And I'm
It's
not
like,
saying this in terms of disrespect. You know, it's
Yeah.
just something that doesn't match our way of making music.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's
Right.
just different.
but it's like I've noticed that, like, you know, even with that like really technical music, you know, it's like people will either be like standing there watching it or like going super crazy, right? And it's harder, I've found, for me to like figure out whether someone is enjoying the show or not when they're like just standing there watching it, because it's like I'll see people who are just like standing there like arms crossed, just like staring at the whole time, like, oh man, that guy is not having a good time.
And then they come and say, yeah, awesome show.
Exactly. And then they're just like, oh, it was so great. And I'm just
Classic.
like, oh man, like, okay, cool. Well, that works. That works for me.
Yeah.
But,
Then it
it's-
really depends also from the attitude of the band on stage. I mean, one of my favorite bands is Car Bomb.
Yeah.
They do the most difficult shit I've ever heard, probably. It's
Yeah.
like, it's very I mean, it's not the most difficult, but it's very fucking complicated.
It is.
And I've seen them live in Milan last summer, and I had a lot of fun because they don't care.
No.
Their attitude is very like street
Yeah.
punkish.
Yep.
They've
got that hardcore.
It's a metal
vibe.
band. It's not like,
Yep.
oh, we do difficult stuff and now you have to notice.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So I had a lot of fun.
I just saw Mr. Mark Okubo from Veil of Maya
there you
just
go.
walked past. He's a good friend of mine. We toured with Veil of Maya for Summer Slaughter a couple years ago. I did the NAMM look. I did it to you while we were in the middle of an interview. God,
See?
what an asshole!
That's because, it's a lack of experience.
It is. That's what it is. That's
when you come to your 9th NAMM, you'll know.
I'll have that laser focus.
See? Yeah.
That's amazing. So is there anything in the works, anything going on? You know, I know like you said, you released your album last year, which debatably one of the toughest years to release an album. We did the same.
Yeah.
And it's, it was received very well, but it's been, like you said, kind of tough locking down tours and
getting those big festival opportunities just because a lot of their budgets are going to these mega millions bands that have already released records last year. But outside of the struggle,
I mean, we can do what we can do.
Yeah.
And what we can do is just writing music.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to do once we find the right person, if that's the case, to be the fifth element. I mean, we are evaluating a few people that can do something else besides playing bass.
Right.
Which is very inspiring because you get some very different inputs compared to what you're used to in terms of, when you write music.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be very interesting. And it's probably going to be very different once again.
Yep.
So the concepts and the boundaries that we set ourselves in the writing process of the latest album,
Right.
I think they will be completely gone for the next one.
Well, that is very exciting.
Yeah.
I love it when bands do outside the box kind of stuff. And you guys have always done outside the box stuff, but even when you set that not expectation for yourself, but when it's that you're a band who does more experimental stuff, so you push yourself to do more experimental stuff and while at the same time, like you said, just making music that you like to make just for the fun of making music.
The point is, I think the latest album is very it's very thought through. It's we really needed every part of each song and every song to be completely smooth in each transition.
Right.
In terms of time change or whatever that is. But, we felt like it wasn't appreciated enough in the way that we do appreciate that when other bands do it.
Right.
So we just figured we should probably completely go ape on the next record.
Dude, exactly. Just go fucking crazy. No, I heard someone once say, if you're not taking risks, you're taking up space. So go for it. That's my biggest.
We never, we never settled to something which wasn't risky. It's not that we decide not to take risks.
Right.
It's just the mindset that you set yourself in the writing process.
Right.
You know? I mean, you just want the songs to be in a certain way.
Exactly.
And if that's clear in your mind, then the songs, they just come out naturally that way because that's the big picture that you set yourself.
Yes.
This time it's going to be different. This time it's not going to be that way. It's just going to be whatever it comes out in a way that excites us. Then fuck it. It's gonna be whatever it's gonna be. I have no clue right now of what's going on the writing process, but I know Matteo is already writing stuff.
Nice.
So I'm excited to go back home and listen to what he has done so far.
Well, I am excited for when that drops to hear it because.
Well, I mean, for how's the timing in the writing process in Destrage? Realistically, it's gonna be in 2 years.
Yeah.
So you gotta be patient.
I'll be counting the days.
Yeah.
All right. Well, dude, thank you so much for sitting down and hanging out with us.
Thanks, man. It's been fun.
Once again, this was Riley here with Fede from Destrage, hanging out at NAMM.
And the podcast name is Struggle United.
And the podcast name is Struggle United Incorporated Company. All right, back to me and you, Vince and Ryan. That was good, right? That was fun. That was a fun thing. I liked hanging out with Fede. He was a really, really cool guy.
My favorite Italians. I flew to Toronto to see them play with Good Tiger, who are also incredible, and Protest the Hero, which
Nice.
it was really cool to see Protest play in Canada. I forgot how much I love that band.
Oh, they're so
But
good.
to really see Destrage live finally and hang out with them for a few days, I shot a bunch of video that ended up in a new music video, the one that's out now. Ryan, pull that up. What the hell song was that for? Yeah, it's about that. So some of the footage in the About That video is from those shows in Toronto with Protest the Hero.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Matteo De Goya, the guitar player, is one of the most creative human beings I've ever met. The video content that comes out of the company he's involved with, called The Jack Stupid, is unbelievably cool.
That's awesome.
The amount of time and energy and money they put into it is just, it's really amazing. And I can't say enough nice things about those guys. So
Yeah.
look, before we signed the band, they opened up for Every Time I Die in Milan, Italy. and I asked Every Time I Die's manager if one of the guys could pop their head in the room.
Yeah.
And got an email back from Andy Williams the next day saying this band was incredible.
That is awesome.
Their vocalist rules kind of thing.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He is so good.
So great dudes, man.
Love those guys. I also love Milan. My secret passion is for fashion. And
that's amazing.
Dude, it's like so like my homepage when I open up Google is like Fashion Digest. Like I am
wild.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know. It's a weird thing that you probably wouldn't expect looking at me because I dress like a metal guy.
Right.
But yeah, I love it. I love all those super weird high fashion showcases. And so every time I go to Milan, I try to like pick up a copy of Vogue Italia and be like, oh,
that's wild.
Because that's like the frontier of that shit.
In 2018, I went to Metal Days in Slovenia and we flew in and out of Venice. And one of the days, Nikki at Metal Blade here and I drove from Venice to Milan to meet up with some of the Destrage guys. And yeah, that was awesome. I drove the rental car all the way into downtown, parked in a parking structure. It was, I realize that sounds very basic, but Milan is a very compact old city.
Very compact.
So driving is a little hairy, but look, I've driven in Chicago and in LA. I feel confident, and it worked out fine.
If you've driven on Manhattan Island, you can drive anywhere in the world.
Right, yeah. But yeah, Milan ruled, and I would love to get back there because I was only there for a couple hours. Yeah. So but I could tell, like, there's a lot of really high-end clothing stores in that city.
That is the spot. So, as I mentioned with Fetty in that last interview, him in casual wear is still more fashionable than everyone else at NAMM.
That's true. All right, man. You ready to talk about some games or what?
Oh, games. I'm ready.
Video games.
What are you playing these days, man?
Dude, so I lots of stuff, honestly. In my casual time, I figured this is how I'm going to split it up with this topic is because I'm always doing like late night casual gaming, like hanging out with, my significant other, sitting there, doing the couple thing, playing video games. We don't usually play games like together. Usually it's, her playing something, because she's still in the getting good. She didn't grow up on video games, so she's still in the getting good phases. And then when she gets to like a boss or a part that she can't figure out, she'll just hand me the controller and I'll put down my cell phone and my comics or whatever I'm doing and help her out with that. So in casual time, we've been playing Nier Automata together, which is the 2016 game of the year. Like
I've heard so many good things. I've never played it.
It is so fantastic. If you like those third-person action adventure kind of games with incredible amounts of story. So the Nier series is made by this guy named Yoko Taro. And Yoko Taro is one of those like sadist game designers. In the original Nier, he basically it's like the whole like man versus machine kind of concept, and he like makes you do this whole thing, and then when you get to the end of it and you get the like super duper secret ending, you like beat the machines, right? But in beating the machines, it like breaks the fourth wall and deletes your save file. He's like that kind of game designer. He made this other game called Drakengard, where the whole thing is like very medieval, high fantasy. Your guy, Dragon Rider, like Drakengard. Anyway, so the post-credit scene after you like unlock it, like super secret post-credits thing, is like everything's all good. You're riding your dragon, you're flying through the night sky, and then all of a sudden it's just like spotlights and helicopters being like, you're in unauthorized airspace, like blah blah blah, and they fucking shoot you down and kill you. Like that's
amazing.
It's incredible. There's like so much just dismal, just horrible darkness in his games, but he writes in such a beautiful, like poetic kind of way. Like in Nier Automata, a lot of the NPCs that you get like big like storyline quests are named after like famous philosophers who specialized in like consciousness. Like he has a dude named Jean-Paul who's named after Jean-Paul Sartre, and he has another dude named Engels and another guy named Pascal and stuff like that. So it's really cool, like the references he puts in there. But the Nier series is amazing, and I cannot sing its praises enough, despite that it's like a 4-year-old game at this point.
Yeah, well, it just like it takes time for people to discover bands.
Yeah,
we all have a lot of games to play, a lot of shows to watch, a lot of records to keep up on. So
yeah,
it takes people some time to sometimes get into these old games. So you're not the only one that's still playing that or just playing it for the first time, for sure.
Yeah.
And one we were talking about, because we both have Switch, something that kind of came out of nowhere for me and is super fun is Messenger on Switch.
God, the Messenger is so good. The Messenger is actually put out by Devolver Digital.
Yeah, same people that did Broforce, which is one of my favorite games of all time.
And a good friend of mine, Steve Sawyer, is a designer over at Devolver. Super, super nice guy. That whole team is based off of such a creative platform. He and I have had talks about like how the video game industry is like one of the last bastions of just being weird and making it work. You know what I mean? Like so many other industries have these like really superficial processes where it's like, you know, this is how you succeed and this is how you network and this is how you make things work. And the video game industry, especially the indie game industry, still really values the whole like, well, that's a fucking stupid idea. Let's do it. Like,
Right.
And
sounds
Devolver
like,
Digital is huge on
it
that.
sounds like a Legion in the studio.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's like,
That's a fucking dumb idea. Let's try it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of harebrained Dave Attero idea you might have, like, give it a whirl. Why not?
See if it sticks.
You were telling me about the soundtrack.
Yeah, so
of The Messenger.
Band some of y'all might be familiar with, Necrogoblikon. Their drummer, Eric W. Brown, actually did the whole soundtrack for The Messenger. If you guys have followed me at all in the past personally, you will know that I streamed The Messenger on Twitch and had Eric come in a couple times and explain like his process on some of the songs, but he uses this alias called Rainbow Dragon Eyes. And the way that he composes 8-bit music is like the old school 80s style that they use for cartridges. So they didn't have like sound chip technology back then, right? So everything had to be programmed into the coding.
Yeah.
And that's how all the sounds were made. So that's how he writes his 8-bit music. I don't know if that's necessarily how he composes it, but that's how he like brings it to life. And now with like 8-bit and 16-bit and all this stuff, he can really like take that method of composing and structuring songs and just take it to the next level. What the Messenger does, once you get to a certain point, it switches from 8-bit to 16-bit.
Oh man, I did not know that. I'm not that far yet.
Oh, okay. So it switches from 18-bit to 16-bit, and there's these like gateways where you can kind of like go back and forth.
Awesome.
And the soundtrack switches with it. So it's an 8-bit soundtrack and a 16-bit soundtrack. And when you like go through these portals, it's like seamless transitions between. So in the programming, they just have both audio files playing on top of each other.
Sure.
And then when you like switch between the modes, you also switch between the soundtrack, and so it's like higher audio fidelity. It's super cool.
Well, hey,
super 8-bit
creative. Sound is cool, but man, that 16-bit sound from an SNES,
oh yeah,
right in the nostalgia bones, man.
Yeah.
Nails me. And speaking of that, that game FTL, Faster Than Light, one of my favorite PC games. The composer is this guy named Ben Prunty, and I would describe his style as naive, weird synthwave, and it's really cool. He's got original works as well out there. He did the soundtrack for the other game by the company that made FTL. I forget who that is. Ryan, do you mind looking that up? FTL? I'm trying to think of the sequel. Into the Breach. That's
Into
the one.
Breach, yeah.
Yeah, Subset Games, Into the Breach. Ben Prunty did both those soundtracks, and he claimed his Spotify profile, which not all game composers will do. A lot of game composers are work for hire. They have a Spotify profile, whatever. But yeah, artists can go in and claim their Spotify profile. I guess a lot of people probably don't know that. So if you go on Spotify and you see a blue check mark next to the band name, you know the band has claimed it or their management or something, and they're active on it. If there's no check mark there, it exists, and the band either doesn't know or doesn't care.
Right.
But Ben Prunty did, and he created a playlist that's the Ben Prunty Chill playlist. I've got that downloaded, and I play it on planes. I play it at work. I have a hard time relaxing. People in this office will tell you I'm a high-strung maniac, and I need to settle the fuck down. I'm working on it. I'm a constant work in progress. And one of the things that really helps me is video game soundtrack music, because I wouldn't say I come from a classical music background, but I come from a background of music education going back to elementary school.
Right.
And I've always had a really huge appreciation for movie soundtracks and video game soundtracks. And in the beginning, video game soundtracks weren't really that big of a deal, even though Super Mario Brothers and things like that are iconic.
Right.
But now video game soundtracks are home to some of the most interesting compositions, I think, in music today. I mean, Jeremy Soule with Skyrim and Oblivion, Morrowind. Jeremy Soule's also worked on some WoW stuff. Ben Prunty, those types of people like that. I love that genre of music.
Just talking about Nier Automata, you want to talk about soundtracks. Holy shit.
That's what I've heard.
Composer Kaiichi Okabe, oh my God. He like invented a language for the Nier soundtrack.
Amazing.
It's so cool, and it just actually went up on Spotify after years of not being on there, and people had like made variations of it, or like had done their best to replicate the soundtrack so that it was up there for people to listen to. But they actually just put it up there because they just started like a world tour thing, which I'm super bummed about because the only North America date was in Chicago, and as you know, we are here on the West Coast, so there was no reasonable way for me to make it out there. Right. But yeah, I'm huge on soundtrack music too. I just went to A New World, which is like intimate transpositions of Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy soundtracks, which are also top tier.
Oh wait,
Nobuo Uematsu.
Oh, you're talking about Distant Worlds? Are you talking about? Distant Worlds by Nobuo Uematsu.
Yes.
I'm familiar.
Yeah,
Distant Worlds, those saved as well.
That's all Final Fantasy songs. Yeah. And Distant Worlds. So Nobuo Uematsu. There's another guy whose name I can't remember who composed like some of the songs for Final Fantasy 12 and 15 and stuff. Really, really good composer as well. But his songs are featured on there a lot. But yeah, Distant Worlds, I think is now done with because they've done like 4 or 5 iterations of it.
I only know the first 2.
So now they're doing A New World, which just released Volume 2. And it is, like I said, like kind of more intimate versions.
See, I thought
songs.
I was being a smartass and correcting you. You just had a whole new thing I didn't know about.
Yeah, A New World. Yeah, no, it's
amazing.
It's really good. I love it. I just went and saw a performance of it in San Diego, and it was phenomenal.
How much of that music takes you to a place, right?
Oh,
and
dude,
that's really the power of music. There's records I can listen to and think, I remember where I was when I listened to this then. And video game music is part of that. Like, you remember the movie Hook?
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie being good? I like that movie. And I watched it recently, and I thought, man, this music is great. Now I remember why I like this movie so much. I looked up the soundtrack. Of course, it's motherfucking John Williams.
Oh, of course.
No wonder.
Yeah.
And a soundtrack by someone that good can really elevate the movie. It can elevate the game. It can really elevate your life with... I was on this long road trip and I had these records.
Do you know that he hates the work he did for Star Wars?
John Williams?
Yeah, hates it.
I could see that because it's to him it might be kind of like his hit song that he doesn't want to play anymore.
He's like, it's like trite and simple is the way he looks at it. He's like, yeah, it's just like I just like crapped it out. Like I didn't even like put effort into the composition. I just like let's do an octave and ba 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 ba. Like, and it's just, he's so disparaging about it.
It's iconic.
So incredibly iconic.
His work for Star Wars is as iconic as it is for Indiana Jones and Harry Potter and all those things.
Did he do Harry Potter?
He did.
Oh, I did not know that.
Only the first 5.
Oh, okay.
The last 2 were someone else. It's so good.
That's all that matters.
It's super technical. Yeah. Some of the violin runs in there are insane. And you can listen to something... You can listen to the Harry Potter soundtrack and those violin runs. Those are essentially super... I could see Greg Burgess, a Legion's guitar player, playing those solos.
Yeah.
They're that fast, like Yngwie Malmsteen level kind of craziness. I don't know. I just find something really cool about diving into that world and learning about the composers, is I feel like they add so much to games and movies that it's little effort on my part to look them up and know who they are. Mm-hmm. And there's a few, especially people like Ben Prunty or other composers for indie games, or even like Jeremy Soule from Skyrim. Yep. He was my Artist of the Year on Spotify one year, and I sent it to him on Twitter because I know he's not that big of a personality. He's famous in that world. Where a lot of metal musicians, they're famous if they go to a show, not if they go to Vaughn's or Kohl's or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So
unless you're Corpse Grinder at Target.
Right. Corpse Grinder at Target, 1 or 2 people might recognize you. But it's like we were talking about before with people commenting online negative. It's also the other side where take a couple minutes out of your day to say something nice to someone that spends the amount of time they do to create something really cool that will probably stick in your head for the rest of your life.
Right. Another really, really good composer for stuff like that, which kind of dips its toes into our pool, Mick Gordon from the Doom soundtracks.
Oh shit!
Yeah, Mick,
I've never looked that up. Yeah,
so it's really good. So Mick Gordon actually he did a full death metal choir for the new Doom Eternal thing coming out. I got hit up for it to do it, but I had a tour obligation. Unfortunately, it was a scheduling thing. But tons of my friends are in it. Chelsea Strickland from Accursed Creator. Seamus McDorton from Black Crown Initiate.
Is that the guy that's on the Rivers of Nile album?
Yes, I believe.
Okay,
so.
I couldn't remember his name offhand.
I think that might be Andy Thomas.
I think you're right. That sounds familiar.
I think
Okay.
it might be Andy Thomas, but he also in Black Crown. Ray Amate from Immortal Bird.
Oh,
is
yeah, she
also-
rules, yeah.
she was also on the Doom death metal choir. So tons of homies on there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like super stoked for that soundtrack to come out with Doom Eternal as well. I mean, that game is going to be amazing. Tons of hell and demons.
I still never finished the last one that came out.
Satanic
so,
iconography all over the place with fire and brimstone and weird industrial metal. And now it's a weird industrial metal with a sick death metal choir behind it. So
Right.
I'm stoked for that.
Also, man, I love talking about this type of music, and I think it's good to have these tunes to lean into and to dive into, to relax. And I love death metal. I'll never stop listening to metal, but being able to turn on something like Ben Prunty and just chill out.
Yeah.
I love
Soundtracks, always a good go-to. Well, I think with that, we are pretty good to wrap up.
Yeah, and
thank
we're
you all
gonna
for
have-
listening.
I was just going to say, we're going to have a really neat Spotify playlist, I think, for this episode,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be a super sick Spotify playlist for this one. Make sure to go check that out. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Subscribe to the Metal Blade YouTube channel.
Yes, do that as well. All these things can be found at metalblade.com and follow that Spotify Metal Blade podcast playlist for all the goodies from this episode.
All right, we'll catch you next time, guys. See you later.
See y'all.